Welcome back. Thanks for joining me. I want to especially thank those that have subscribed. I can't believe it, 90 people. That's fantastic. Hopefully you're getting something of interest from these videos. I would hope that you would also feel free to share them to your game master or players, as the case may be, that may benefit from this. I'm going to be giving my thoughts on 3 different items. The first one is I finally got a chance to run Stars Without Number, a game that's been sitting on my shelf for quite some time. I've wanted to play this game. I've just been aching to play this game. And the reason why is because I really like the setting. The players also, as I introduced Stars Without Number to them, this was a smaller group this week. We had a player away. So it was a perfect opportunity for us to do a one-shot in a completely different system than what we've been playing. And I say completely different, but that's maybe stretching things a little bit. Stars Without Number is an OSR product. We've been playing an OSR product for the last year plus in DCC, Weird Frontiers, Mutant Crawl Classics, and we've had a lot of fun with it. It's good. It's the advantage with OSR is that once I think with some important variation, and I don't want to brush over that completely, with some variation, OSR is not, once you've dug your teeth into one, it's not much of a stretch to try others. And I think that's one of the beauties of it. You can see, okay, this is what they're doing here. It's slightly different than what we were doing in DCC, but the barrier to entry is very low because players are familiar with the overall mechanic. At least that's what has happened in our group. So my impression, Stars Without Number, character creation is they've got an interesting system that I like a lot. They have backgrounds. Backgrounds influence what skills you may start with. You have a choice. You can do a starter skill set, which is just basically a smaller number, but just pre-selected that fits the background well. Or you can choose to roll. You get a few more chances, but you might get something completely different. That's the background. They have 3 classes. I had created pre-gen characters. I haven't done that a lot. So pre-gen characters is a new thing, but because we were only, I was only envisioning having this one session this week with Stars Without Number before we go back to something else, and we'll change it up for next week. I didn't really think I had enough time to go through a whole session 0 where we create the characters together. Instead of doing that, I just created one of each of the core classes in Stars Without Number. So that would be a warrior, an expert, and a psychic. And I created those. It took me a little bit of time, but I did do these pre-gen characters and had them ready to go. It's not a very laborious project to create characters in Stars Without Number. I think that's one of the beauties of the system. There's still a ton of variability because of the foci. So you have your background, you have your class, and then you get to choose these foci that are quite varied and in some cases quite powerful. In fact, I think you can make a case that most of them are really quite good. And they create a huge amount of variability between one warrior to the next, one expert to the next. And I think that's a strength of the system. I do like that a lot. Uses a 2d6 roll for skill checks. That was somewhat new for the players. The other game systems that we've been using just use the d20 across the board. That was a good experience. And I think that actually was so successful with the players that I think that's probably going to influence our next game, that we're looking for that multiple dice roll rather than just a 1d20 check. Okay, so Stars Without Number, should you try it out? I think if you've done any kind of OSR type game in the past or a d20 based game, it's worth checking out. If for nothing else, the setting is really, really good. Now, I do acknowledge that there's probably quite a fair degree of overlap between Stars Without Number and other science fiction based games like Traveller. I'm still relatively new to Traveller, so I'm still kind of getting my feet underneath me as far as the setting is concerned. But for Stars Without Number, really solid. More than that, perhaps, is the Kevin Crawford's books give an absolute plethora of tools for game masters that like to run sandbox adventures. Really, really strong in that department. And That's the kind of adventure that I prefer as well. So excellent tools. You could use the setting. If the setting's not really for you, you don't really like it, there's enough tools there. You can create whatever you want in your own setting. And the tools are exhaustive, from name generators to sector generators to, various governments and all of that. There's just a ton of material there for game masters to use and players to interact with. So it's really, really good. Now, I've made a couple little notes here. I usually just do my stream of consciousness type thing, but I'm trying to be a little more brief with this particular video as I want to get it out there as it's still fresh in my mind. Here's another couple things that I tried this week that are new, different. Last week, you'll remember I talked about how I showed you this train that I had sketched out and colored, and it was all color coded and whatever. But the idea this week was, after the feedback I received from the players, I decided that I wasn't going to have any of that at all. I'm going to just try this without any artifact, without any shared map whatsoever. Yes, I still did the character portraits and the little name tents. That I think is very important. I'm not likely to give that up anytime soon, so I did create those. I had a absolute mountain of prep that I did for this one shot. Ridiculous amount of time that I spent on this. And my wife, a little bit of a reality check for me, which was sorely needed. She's like, "You do realize you spent 6 hours preparing for a 3-hour game? Like, what are you doing?" And that's fair criticism, because what I had done is I had set an expectation for the players. Like, I used this one shot to work on specific items that we want to focus in on as areas of improvement, or areas that we want to explore. Is this something we liked? Are we going to try this some more? Or are we going to abandon this and go somewhere else in a different direction altogether? And the expectation for last night's game was, I want you to practice, you as a player and me as the game master. This is relevant to the 6-hour prep time that I mentioned just a moment ago. I want all of us to practice using our imagination in the moment to flesh out the world, to move your character through this simulated world such that the world can have more detail, that you're adding the detail through your character's actions, through your interactions that your character has, both with the environment and with other characters in the environment. We're going to see something created spontaneously together. And obviously, if I'm going to ask my players to do that, then it's only right that I have a modicum of integrity, that I don't use 6-hour prep time to erase any requirement that I would have in the moment to use my imagination. So even though I spent all this time, oh boy, tons of time getting this, going through various scenarios, if they go here, if they go there, there's these conflicts and then that conflict and then that conflict. And then wait a second, hold on. This is going to degrade into me just telling them a story. And story time might be fun, story time with Crispy. That might be fun for maybe a few minutes, and then it's boring. And it defeats the whole purpose of what I was trying to go with this one shot, which is we're going to practice using our imagination. We're going to flex that muscle, and we're going to work on that as something that we're going to pull into whatever game we're doing and whatever duration game we're doing. So along with this, and this is again a big departure from what we normally do. We didn't really have a session 0. We didn't have time for it. It was just a one shot. I had pre-gens ready. I just went over the dice mechanic, a few little comments about each character. This is what this means. This is what this means. This is your character's ability. Here's what this... And then I asked them, start thinking about what your motivation of your character is. Why are they on this ship? Where are they going? Who paid for their ticket? Why are they, like, all of these? You don't have to share anything yet. Just have it in your mind. And then as it comes up in the game, you'll hopefully subconsciously you're working out those things. I even asked them to do this, which maybe is a topic for a future video. I like the idea that characters have a secret. So, because I like to do that for my NPCs. Every NPC has a secret. Now, sometimes the secret's, relatively mundane or harmless. Sometimes the secret is huge. But I like the idea that you have a secret that may or may not come up. And then as the game master, what I like to do is I like to have secrets. If I don't use a secret in 1 week, I don't keep it for the next week. I throw it away and I come up with new ones. So it's not the, I don't want to just reuse the secret again and again and again. No, I want to practice. I like to practice coming up with something new each week. So I asked them to do that, and then all of that. The other thing we didn't do, and this is something that is a little scary, but I think it worked well. I did not have the pregen characters have some kind of pre-existing relationship with each other. They all woke up from their cryo beds at the same time. The ship is listing badly. There's lights flickering on and off. There's a smell of smoke. There's an ominous PA announcement. Something that comes over, the captain talking about, all crew, prepare to repulse boarders, and that's it. They didn't know each other. There's random people running around in this large room with a bunch of cryo beds on it, coming up, complete mayhem. And just see how did it work? What do you do? How are you going to interact? And how are you going to present yourself as the character such that other people can interact with you? And that was part of the practice. That's part of using the imagination to flesh out the scene, to flesh out the world so that the world becomes more believable. So I tried to keep along the same lines. I gave descriptions that were hopefully punchy, like there was enough detail there that the characters can interact with it without being suffocating. Because at times I get so excited that I'll launch into a description that goes into complete unnecessary detail, and thereby I encourage, even though I'm not trying to encourage this, in a way I'm encouraging lazy player imagination. So I don't have to think about what this could look like because Chris will just tell me. I mean, I'll just eventually spill the beans. And so rather than do that, I had to catch myself a couple times. No, I don't need to give the full description. I need to give enough description that the players can use their imagination to fill in the rest. And then as they describe their actions in the world, then that resolution builds and builds and builds. Okay, last few comments from me on this video. I think that there's a lot of advantage to using a one-shot as a format to practice role-playing, practice something you want to improve. In my experience, just how I usually run games, I usually run games that last months, years, in some cases, multiple years. So that is normally how I run things. And I see value in that as well as potential pitfalls. The value is I really am interested in seeing how characters develop over time, not in the sense of leveling up. Who cares? So you get another +1. Wow. No. I want to know how the conflicts, the failures, the successes, the people that they've met along the way have changed a character from what they began to where they are now. Have they become jaded? Have they become more? Have they? Do they still have the same biases? Did they still have the same world outlook? Or have their motivations changed over time? What's their goal now? I like to see that kind of development over time. I think that's interesting, and I think that's more easily accomplished when you have the same character that you're acting through. So this is your avatar, your character in the world that's being simulated that continues on over an extended period of time. So I like that. I like that a lot. I also really like seeing how player character actions influence the world over time. So you made this choice. It was a tough choice. You had to choose between Village A and Village B. You could only save one. You save Village A, you let Village B get wiped out. There will be long-term ramifications because of that choice. And that's not me just trying to be capricious and punish players for, oh, you're supposed to save everybody and you couldn't save everybody. So here's a no. This is just it's an interesting development for a world that should feel more alive. The world should feel that it's a living world, that your actions matter in the sense that they will have long-term ramifications. So that's me giving a lot of words about in defense of long-term campaigns and how much I enjoy long-term campaigns. That said, the one shot is a phenomenal tool and should not be neglected, in my opinion. Having done one I know I'm not an expert at one shots, obviously, but having tried it out with my players this last week, I can say that it is an excellent tool for practicing the game in one mechanic or another. The other thing that was really surprising to me was just how much feedback I got from my players on the one shot and how much they enjoyed the one shot. They said to me things like, it felt a little liberating to have this one shot. And we knew that, okay, this is going to be just tonight. This adventure, whatever happens, is just going to be tonight. And yet, that said, at no point did I get the impression that any of the players were treating these pre-gens as just throwaway, two-dimensional, paper-thin, character sheets that didn't have personality or didn't have... They played the heck out of those characters. Like they really got into it. I was so surprised with that. It's a pre-gen, but they got right into it. And yet they also said afterwards how much they enjoyed it and they want to do more of it. So I'm still thinking about that. Like, why? I'm still wrapping my head around that feedback that they really liked the one shot. Now, we have been doing episodic. And episodic is kind of like a one shot, except the difference is that there is an expectation that if the player characters still survive, then we'll have them in the next episode, most likely. So there is some continuity there from week to week. Whereas this was just it's just this Tuesday and that's it, and then we'll go to something else next week. But they loved it. So maybe give it a try. I'd be interested to hear what your experiences on that for players that have been trained to expect kind of an ongoing and long-term conflicts that take a long time to resolve, and in between that, other conflicts that are more short-term in duration. Set all aside. Maybe set that aside for now, and just for an experiment. I'd be very, very interested to hear others that have tried a one-shot, having done campaigns almost exclusively. Try a one-shot and just see how it goes, especially if you have a goal in mind for the one-shot like what we did. I think that might be a key component. I'm not convinced that can be just brushed over. If you have a key or a principal goal in mind, we are working on this, and just be focused on this. And I'm going to focus on it. You're going to focus on it. Yeah, I prepped for 5-6 hours, but we're going to just throw that all away for now so that I can practice on the very same thing that I'm asking you to practice. And it worked surprisingly well. So I'm going to try it again. We're going to try it again. We're going to do something next week. Still in the sci-fi realm, I think, that the players... That's something else that was a little surprising to me. Just how excited the players were for the setting. They just sunk their teeth into that setting. They just loved it. They're like, yeah, can we do something more like this? Or, let's stay with the science fiction. Can we do some more science fiction? What do you think? And yeah, so good feedback. So just to wrap it up, thank you very much. If you got this far, please leave a comment. Let me know if you have a favorite setting, something you think I absolutely should check out, something that has a lot of room for interesting conflicts that we could do, even if it's just as a one shot. Let me know what those are. I'm curious to know what settings out there are out there that I may not have. I've done all the kind of basic ones, the ones that we've all done. But it's I think it's good to look at some other settings out there, and there's just an absolute incredible library of these things that we could to be explored. So yeah, check out Stars Without Number. Excellent. Not without its drawbacks, but not drawbacks specific to Stars Without Number. My players, some of the feedback they gave me is they really liked the skill check system, the 2d6, add your skill modifier if you have one. Compare that to the difficulty class of the skill. If it's something that's hard enough that it requires a skill check, they liked that a lot. We're all getting a little tired of the D20 for attack resolutions and saving throws and those kind of things. We're interested in trying out some others that aren't quite that same mechanic. It's just a really swingy mechanic. Not that I don't like it. I mean, that's what we've been playing with for years and years now. But I think we're going to explore some others, probably in a one-shot format, to see what else we enjoy in that respect. So check out Stars Without Number. Great resource. Very fun. Lots of fun there. And when you get a chance, don't shy away from a one-shot. I hadn't done a lot. I'm glad I did it. It was well worth it. And player feedback was very, very positive in that regard. Just a very small programming note. I've trying to connect with Mr. Max Boivin, and he's been kind enough to get back to me. And I think we're going to plan a conversation between him and I this Saturday. So if you're Saturday, I think the plan is to be what is that? 6 p.m. Eastern time. That's Max's time zone, and we're gonna try to get together and have a conversation. Him and I. Hopefully, it'll be interesting. I think he's a really interesting guy. Someone who's making his own game. He's interviewed a lot of game designers. A lot of interesting thoughts on role playing and other things that we may have in common. We may have some differences, but I'm really looking forward to the conversation between him. We've been trying to set something up for a while, so it would be, hopefully you can join us, and that would be great. We'd love to have you listen in on that conversation. Again, that's this coming Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for watching these videos. Again, really appreciate you having along. Thanks for the subscriptions, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.